Welcome to the Fascia-Informed Therapist, the essential podcast for occupational therapy professionals looking to deepen their understanding of fascia's pivotal role in therapy and health. I'm your host, Amy Mayer, an experienced occupational therapist, practice owner, and dedicated educator. Here we'll dive into the fascinating world of fascia, exploring its significance in the human body and its critical influence on occupational therapy practice. Each episode will bring you cutting-edge insights, expert interviews, and practical strategies to help you confidently integrate the science of fascia into your therapeutic approach. Whether you're a seasoned practitioner or just starting out, our goal is to equip you with high-quality, evidence-based, and fascia-informed continuing education opportunities that will enhance your skills and benefit your clients. So join us as we unravel the complexities of fascia and transform the way you practice occupational therapy. All health and wellness practitioners are welcome. Let's learn, grow, and evolve together. Hi, this is Amy, and this is another edition of the Fascia-Informed Therapist. I'm excited about the episode today because this is a study that I've been sitting on for a while. It's a 2022 study, and I was hanging on to it thinking I gotta write a blog about this. So I've had it way before this podcast even started, and then I pulled it up again working on my project, and it's definitely worth sharing. And it's all about exercise, but not in the way that we traditionally think about it. And I think it's, how is exercise relevant to a podcast called Fascia-Informed Therapist? Well, I would imagine all you fascia-informed therapists that are out there listening and care about this topic also care about things like exercise because it's relevant to fascial health. So anyway, this is super, super interesting. I'm going to give you some of the bottom line, and then we'll go back and run through a little bit more information about the study. And hopefully you find it as interesting and relevant to you personally and your practice as I do. So this is a 2022 study in the Journal of Nature Medicine, and it's called Association of Wearable Device Measured Vigorous Intermittent Lifestyle Physical Activity with Mortality. That's a mouthful, but let's talk about it. So essentially they're saying in this study, here's the bottom line, that 4 minutes a day of movement without going to a gym can significantly reduce your risk of dying from cancer, heart disease, or basically any cause at all. And this study included over 25,000 adults that did not do any formal exercise, and they reported that they probably didn't even do more than one recreational walk per week. So why is this relevant? This is relevant because if we care about the health of fascia, then we need people to move. And in the study, they said, they didn't give a specific percentage, but they said, I'm going to grab my print. Yes, I printed it out because sometimes I like to go old school. Despite the large health potential of vigorous intensity physical activity, most adults age 40 and over do not do vigorous exercise or sports. And as I'm working on my book project, I was looking up similar recent data, and now I don't remember exactly what I found, but this jives with that. Most people, especially older adults and older adults, are not doing regular exercise in the way that it is recommended by the CDC and such. But now the CDC is also saying all movement matters and that you can pull it together to get those, I think it's 150 minutes a week of vigorous exercise, or moderate intensity, I think they say. So that's the fact of the matter, and I think that's why it's relevant to us. Now, my practice, and maybe yours too, runs the gamut. And I have people like Cheryl, who I interviewed a couple episodes ago, who is a multi-Ironman completer and who's in her early 60s and just completed a half Ironman last weekend. And we're going to meet up later today and she's going to tell me all about it. But I have people like her, and then I have people on the other end of the spectrum who, they have a sedentary job and then they have a sedentary lifestyle when they get home because they're exhausted even though the job is sedentary, and they don't move much in their evenings or in their leisure time. And then there's people like me, which I would throw maybe in the middle. I'm a good mover, but I don't like to exercise. I do not like to go to the gym. That turns my stomach a little. I don't know why. I've never had a bad experience in a gym. I just in my head, there's just about anything I would rather be doing than exercising, and it's not because I hate to exercise. It's because I love doing so many other things, and I always feel like there's something else that needs to either get done or I'd like to do or read about, and I'm not super sedentary. I don't watch a lot of television. Do we even say television anymore? I don't know. So I'm kind of in that I get up and down a lot, even when I am sedentary, because sitting still has always been kind of difficult for me. I don't have a formal diagnosis that would support that, but maybe I should. I don't know. But anyway, the interest in movement varies widely. The ability to move a lot varies widely. And I think this study is relevant to us because it's going to help the people that are on the end of the spectrum that don't move as much. So, what is VILPA? VILPA is an acronym that I'll be using as I explain this study. VILPA stands for Vigorous, Intermittent, Lifestyle, Physical Activity, as opposed to VPA, or Vigorous Physical Activity. So the words that are important here are intermittent and lifestyle. Intermittent meaning the vigorous activity doesn't occur all in one bunch. It occurs intermittently. And the lifestyle piece is it happens in the context of life, when they're doing life things. And we'll talk more about that. So what's the empirical definition that they used in this study? So VILPA refers to brief and sporadic bouts, typically 1 to 2 minutes, only 1 to 2 minutes of vigorous intensity physical activity that occur during daily living rather than as part of a structured exercise program. Now, what does vigorous mean? We're going to break that down a little bit because I'm hoping to structure this podcast episode so that I can send it out to my newsletter list. I have one that goes to the healthcare practitioners and one that goes to the public. And I think I want this podcast to be relevant for you both, or both of those newsletters, because all you health practitioners are people too and should be taking care of yourself. And yes, I'm pointing my finger a little and shaking my finger a little bit right now, because we often don't do as good of a job as we tell our clients to do. And we're often helpers. We just want to help. We should help ourselves first. Okay, so these movements intense enough to elicit a physiological response consistent with vigorous effort, which means greater than or equal to 64% of VO2 max. So first let's talk about what VO2 max is. VO2 max is your body's maximum capacity to take in, transport, and use oxygen during hard exercise. So here's some ways to think about it. Oxygen engine size. Just as your car's engine size limits how much power it can produce, your VO2 max limits how much energy your muscles can generate when you push yourself a little bit. There's a fitness ceiling. It reflects the highest intensity of effort you can sustain, or how hard you can work before your muscles sort of run out of breath. Here's an example. If you sprint up a flight of stairs, your heart and lungs race, right? How quickly and efficiently they can supply oxygen to your muscles during that sprint is a rough measure of your VO2 max. This matters because a higher VO2 max usually means you have better endurance, you have better cardiovascular health, and you have better overall fitness. It's one of the reasons why short bursts of vigorous activity like the VILPA stair climbs we'll talk about can have outsized health benefits. They push your oxygen engine towards its limit, stimulating your heart and lung, making them stronger, improving your muscle function. So your VO2 max is essentially that out of breath feeling, but you feel like you're pushing yourself hard, but you can do it. I'm out of breath, but I can keep going kind of thing. So again, that's 64% of your VO2 max. So you're not all the way there, but you're getting more than halfway there. The next measure of vigorous effort is greater than or equal to 77% of your maximum heart rate. And how is your maximum heart rate calculated? How is your maximum heart rate calculated? So the most common formula out there is your maxes. If you take 220 and subtract your age. So if you're 50 years old, 220 minus 50, 170 beats is your maximum heart rate. That means the safest, highest heart rate you should be targeting for. That's the maximum. Go any farther than that, I don't know what will happen, but it probably isn't going to be good. So why does the heart rate matter? In research and fitness, vigorous activity is typically defined as 77% or more of your maximum heart rate. So that 50-year-old with a maximum heart rate of 173 beats per minute times 0.77 is 133. So that should be your target to reach something that would be considered vigorous. So for me, 162 is my max because I'm 58. And if I multiply 162 times 0.77 or 77%, then that's 125. So if I'm wearing a heart rate monitor, I have a watch, but I rarely, one of those, it's a Samsung version, but I rarely wear it anymore because I can't see it without putting my glasses on. So it doesn't really help me a lot. But 125 is what I'm trying to target if I'm trying to get to a vigorous range. Okay, so now we've got greater than or equal to 64% of VO2 max, greater than or equal to 77% of maximum heart rate, and then the last measurement that they put in here was, and OTs and PTs out there, you will know this, maybe others will too, but greater than or equal to 15 on the Borg, B-O-R-G, perceived exertion scale. So what is this scale for those of you that have never heard about it? It's a simple way to rate how hard you're working during physical activity, and it's completely based on how it feels. There's nothing strapped to you or monitoring you. It's your own perception, the Borg perceived exertion scale. So here's the rating. If you ask yourself, how hard does this feel right now? It's on a scale of 6 to 20, and I don't know why it's 6 to 20. And 6 is basically no effort at all, like you're just hanging out on the couch, not doing anything. 9 to 11 is light effort, like you're just taking a walk. 13 is you're getting a little challenge, like you're brisk walking or power walking maybe. And then 15 is it feels hard. You're kind of sweaty or starting to get sweaty and you're a little out of breath. And then 17 is very hard, 19 extremely hard, 20 is max effort, like I just can't go any harder than this. And so again, to define vigorous, they're saying greater than or equal to 15 on this. So you're working, you perceive that you are working hard and you're probably exerting some sweat and you're a little bit out of breath. Okay, so the three measurements of vigorous effort: 64% of VO2 max or more, 77% of maximum heart rate or more, and then a 15 or more on the Borg perceived exertion scale. So how did they decide to measure VILPA? So they actually did a companion study, which they do describe in the article, but they did not publish this companion study. They just described it in the context of this study. And they took 58 adults, about 56 years old, and tested 5 everyday tasks, while measuring oxygen consumption and heart rate. And these were walking fast on a flat surface, walking while carrying weighted bags, I guess that simulates groceries, and then walking up an incline. And they found it took about 73.5 seconds on the average to reach vigorous intensity during these tasks. And so that's how they chose to look at 1 to 2 minute bout durations of the VILPA. To capture the VILPA, they use an accelerometer. They use data from the accelerometer, which is often in the wearable devices. And so they looked at 10-second windows of the information that was coming in. And it was classified as vigorous using validated machine learning models when acceleration exceeded greater than or equal to 400 mg. And I'm like, what's mg? I didn't know what mg was, so I had to look that up. So in this study, mg stands for milligravity. It's a unit used to quantify acceleration measured by wearable devices that have the accelerometers in them. So, okay, for you physics nerds out there, 1g, or gravity, equals the acceleration due to Earth's gravity. And if you took high school physics, then 9.81 meters per second squared. That's the acceleration of gravity. And then 1 mg equals 1/1000th of that. So that's 0.00981 meters per second squared. I loved my high school and college physics class, but I'm quite sure if I would have went past Physics 101, I probably wouldn't have liked it so much. Okay, I like physics as it's relevant to the human body and how we move and the things we do and the environment around us. Okay, accelerometers measure how fast and how forcefully your body is moving. So when the study says someone's movement reached greater than or equal to 400 mg, milligravity, it means the acceleration of that movement was at least 400 thousandths of gravity, or about 3.9 meters per second squared. Okay, so they focused on bouts of less than or equal to 1 or less than or equal to 2 minutes. And that made up over 90% of the vigorous activity. Actually, I think this is interesting. Of all the 1 to 2 minutes, so 2 minutes made up, as I just said, about 97.7% of the bouts of movement. And 93% of the total were around 1 minute. So that tells me if you're even just doing 1 minute, you're going to get quite a bit of benefit out of this. It kind of blows my mind, but I'm really super grateful for this, because that's more like what I do in life. I go into when I'm waiting for my coffee to get going, I'm doing some squats by the counter, or I'm stretching, or I'm doing something in little bursts. And I thought I was doing it mostly just for keeping my fascia mobile and stretched and keeping my joints open and those things. But if I maybe uptick my effort a little bit, I can get even more cardiovascular and other benefits. Okay, so back to the study. Using wearable devices, they track these short bursts of vigorous movement as they're woven into daily life. And the things that they saw people doing were things like walking really fast to catch a bus, or climbing the stairs quickly, or carrying heavy groceries in from the car. These are all small movements integrated into daily life, which happens all the time. I have to take stairs. I could walk extra far and take an elevator to get up to my floor, but I have to walk upstairs to get to my apartment from the garage below. And it's a fairly goodly amount of stairs, we'll say. So if I just maybe took those a little bit faster, or frequently I'm carrying some groceries or something, or definitely my backpack from work, maybe I'm getting a lot more VILPA than I thought. So here's what they discovered. Just 3 to 4 short bursts a day, each lasting 1 to 2 minutes, were linked to, and this is amazing, up to 49% lower risk of death from heart disease, and around 40% lower risk of dying from cancer or any other cause. That's pretty amazing. And get this, these effects were comparable to those who do structured, vigorous exercise, like running or HIIT classes, just without the gym or the schedule or the equipment. When I read this, my mind blown, and thank the Lord. Okay, so what's the tie back to fascia? I think that this could really help get people motivated to move more. And because fascia, along with everything else in the body, needs movement to be healthy. And if we can tell people that, hey, it really doesn't take much to make a difference. And I imagine you do even more than that. You can maybe get more benefits. But can you imagine telling somebody that they can get a 49% lower risk from death or heart disease just by doing 3 to 4 short bursts? I mean, I have a friend that just had a heart attack, and now he's thinking, well, gosh, I got to structure in all this exercise. Well, I can't wait to tell him, hey, I'll either send this to him, or because he would probably really like to read the study, but hopefully he'll listen to the podcast episode as well. The other tie back, I think, is fascia thrives on variety of movement. And a lot of our structured activity is often repetitive and linear, like walking and running, repetitive and linear, elliptical, rowing machine. I mean, none of those things are bad, but they're repetitive and linear. And our daily movement during life rarely is linear. So movement variability creates fascia that can handle. Movement variability creates fascia that can handle movement variability. Because when we do a lot of linear activities, and we rarely do, and the only time we get out of linear is during daily life, that's oftentimes when people get hurt, injured, tweak something. That's the stories I hear all the time. And when somebody's body is feeling painful, and in their minds, in order to get better, they have to do this structured activity that they're just really dreading doing, this type of exercise can feel so much more accessible to them. And if you think about it, you have to get life done anyway. And if you know, okay, I'm doing life, I got to get this done, but I'm also doing something that's really good for my body, and I'm decreasing my risks of a lot of things that are very life-threatening. That's big. That's huge. So I think it's information that we can bring back to our clients and maybe really uplift a lot of people, and maybe also take a lot of shame away. Because as I've talked about before, I'm sure somewhere, when Daniel Lieberman talks about how, we didn't evolve to exercise. Exercise was part of life. And in today's culture, exercise is deemed really important and a necessity. And people get shamed for not doing it. But many of us don't have this internal motivation. Some of us do, like Cheryl, but many of us don't have this internal drive. We do it because we know it's good for us. But then the people get shamed that aren't. They're lazy. Well, I think we definitely need to rethink that, and shaming certainly isn't going to help anybody. So anyway, this study, I think, reminds us that when it comes to fascia, we don't need perfect posture. We don't need perfect workouts. It's really about variety and using our body in its most natural design. Fascia thrives on input and movement, and with just a few bursts of this, 3 to 4 a day, done naturally in the context of daily life, it can keep your fascia and all the systems that run through it more resilient and perhaps more alive too. So thank you very much for listening. I appreciate all of you. Again, this study is in the Journal of Nature Medicine, and it's a 2022. If you want to Google it, I'll put the study in the description of the show. So thank you again so much. Please share this if you have somebody in your life that doesn't like to exercise much and might be interested in learning about this information. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in to the Fascia-Informed Therapist. It's been a pleasure sharing insights and strategies to help you integrate fascia science into your practice. I'm Amy Mayer, and I hope today's episode has inspired you to explore further and take your therapeutic skills to the next level. Remember, we're committed to creating and providing top-notch, evidence-based, fascia-informed continuing education that empowers you as an occupational therapy practitioner. Stay connected with us for more enriching content, and don't forget to check out our online courses to deepen your expertise. Until next time, keep expanding your knowledge, refining your skills, and confidently applying the science of fascia to your practice. Here's to advancing together in health and wellness.